Hey, you're looking good, Mr. Thorne. Well, hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the first annual Elliot Rod and Reed Sport and Friendly Zoom session here. We're in the Walker Building. I'm joined today with Mr. Lee Johnson and Mr. Corey Brock.
Oh.
Smallmouth guru, because he can't catch a walleye, extraordinarily walleye angler. So both are covering your odds today, Mr. Thorne.
Awesome.
And we're also co-hosted folks here with Mr. Gregg Throne, the owner, provider, operator, designer, custom rod builder himself for the last 47 years, Mr. Gregg Throne. So, Greg, thanks for being on the show with us today. But I do want to
having me.
Yeah, I do want to throw it in advance. So we do have a little background noise going on with the speakers above, because the call center is here answering phones, making deals, and sharing the love of Elliot Rods and Reed Sporting Goods great pricing every day of the week.
All right.
So we are going to open tomorrow at 9:30 in Walker and Mille Lacs.
Ooh.
Yep, cracking the hatch, getting ready. So without further ado, I'm going to let you run through some new products, what Elliot Rods truly is, who a guy named Paul and Gregg Throne really are, and talk about a thing called Syncork.
All right. Let's go.
All right.
Yeah, I've always had a passion for fishing rods. I don't know exactly how it started. I don't know if a passion finds you or you find it, but I guess I think back about it when I was young. I think we had 4 channels, TV channels, and black and white TVs. And if you didn't get out of the house in the summer, your mom was barking at you to do something. So I spent my time on a bike and went down to the lakes, local lakes, and was waist deep in water all summer. And I think that's where fishing rods really kind of got my attention. I didn't think a lot about the reel or the lure that was on them, but I really liked the fishing rod a lot. And that passion stayed with me throughout my young adult life. And it was probably in my mid-20s where my brother Paul had built a fishing rod, bought a kit and made one. And he seemed to enjoy it. And for my birthday, he bought me one. And I think I still have that very first one right here. It was an old musky rod. And as you can see back then, things were a little bit archaic. It's got a brass chrome-plated reel seat. The cork rings here, each ring was individually reamed out with a rat tail file, slid down there and glued on. You didn't have a lathe to shape it. You filed it down with a file and hand sanded it. You wrapped on the guides and put the epoxy on, and then you had to turn it until it solidified, for about a half hour, and then you put it in the corner and hope the dog didn't find it because the hair would stick to it. But that's how it kind of all started way back when. And things evolved from then, and it wasn't too many years later that we started Thorne Brothers and built a rod building shop, custom shop, and we had people come in and build rods. And that's really kind of where a lot of the innovation started and a lot of the history started. Like, for instance, a rod like this, I don't know what it weighs, it's almost close to a pound. Back then, Paul and I were working with Larry Dahlberg, who was just a young rep back then. He worked with the Sage Rod Company, and we developed the Sage 569 blank. And we built a musky blank that was just so much different than anything else out there. This is an example. Back then, this was what a bass rod was, okay? Had a Fuji molded grip here. This handle itself weighed 6.5 ounces. And you glued the rod into it, the blank into it, and you had a completed rod. Well, we built a musky rod with that Sage 569 and a reel seat like the one I showed you, the brass one, but aluminum. That musky rod weighed 6.5 ounces. So it was like, wow, it kind of was a game changer. And what that meant at the end of the day, when you're fishing from dark to dark, making all those casts, you had a little more gas in your tank at the end of the day. So it really kind of launched us into rods. And then soon after that, we made some innovations in ice rods. This is the first solid carbon graphite ice rod ever made, I think. We made the first ice rods. So we've always tried to lead in innovation and in intuitive stuff, and that's kind of what we're still doing today and we'll always do. One of our mottos is lead, don't follow. And with the Elliot brand, one of the things that makes the Elliot Rods, very unique, is a handle material that I came out with in 2005. It's called Syncork. And it developed very simply in a way. We had sold the store in 93. I had a lot of fishing rods that I liked that I built earlier than that. And the organic cork on it became, it started.
Looks like we lost Gregg for a minute here. We'll see if we can get him back. We can see you and hear you.
Well, you can?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'll just go on.
We lost you, Gregg, right when you were starting to go through your Syncork.
Okay. Yeah. I wanted to rebuild the handles, and when I went to buy the new cork rings to put on there, they were very expensive. I think when we sold the store, the cork rings on a handle were anywhere from 25 to 45 cents a ring, and they were not then $2.50 a ring. And I was shocked at the price of it, and the quality wasn't as good as it used to be. And the reason that happens is semi-interesting in that cork is a bark off of a tree. It only comes from Portugal or another country, and the supply went way up, the demand went way up, the supply went down. The reason that the demand went way up is because the world started drinking more wine. Different countries that weren't really wine drinkers, Asian, other countries of that, different cultures started drinking more wine, and the best quality cork has to go into a wine bottle. If you have a subgrade cork with the little brown pits in it and everything, that'll leak air and turn your wine into vinegar. So the source of cork, the source for it, it was good for fishing rods, and quality went down, price went up. So I thought there had to be a better product, a better one than cork, and I worked on it, and we came up with a product called Syncork. It's a plastic type material. It's 30% lighter than organic cork. It's 45% denser, and that density makes a big difference. It helps transmit the sensitivity from the rod blank to your hand. It's a big difference over cork, organic cork, or EVA foam, things of that nature. So it's lighter weight and it's more sensitive. It's also a plastic type material. It's inert. It can't absorb anything. It can't rot or decay. This is basically a lifetime handle. And another nice thing about it is you can put a texture on it. When I first started making it, I tried to make it as smooth, and I did, as cork. But after a while, I thought, why? It's slippery like cork. So we put a texture on it, so you have a much better grip when your hands are wet from sweat or from rain or fish slime or whatever. And it's much more comfortable to hold on to, much more sensitive. And I went with black for color because black never shows dirt. This handle will look just like it does 10 years from now. Originally I kind of went with a regular cork color, and it would show dirt. It would wash off, but I just went with black because you have to maintain it, and it doesn't build up heat. I thought it might build up heat in the sun, but it doesn't in any way, shape, or form. So it's really a quality product, and once you give it a try, you don't want to go back to anything else. We have so many customers that say, "Jesus, I have a Syncork handle. It's hard for me to pick up my other rods now. I'm spoiled." So beyond the Syncork, there's other features and benefits that make our rods what we call high performance rods. And that's what we try to do in every rod we make in the Elliot brand, is make a high performance rod at not necessarily the highest high performance cost. So a great rod at a good value. One of the features that we build into every one of our bass, panfish bass, and walleye rods is we make our rods balance in your hand. And we don't do it by artificially weighting the butt end of the rod or any shenanigans like that. We design it starting with the blank and move on from there. And what that does for you is something very amazing if you fish with it. A balanced rod in your hand feels altogether different. And I'll give you a little experiment to try. You take any other rod, 9 out of 10 of them, on it, and you do this test, it'll go down like that. The tip will go right to the floor. And generally we call that a clunker. And what you do with that tip is you take a scale, a digital scale, and put it on the floor and measure the weight to that rod tip. That rod tip weight might be a half ounce, an ounce, an ounce and 3/4. I've seen it up as high as 2 ounces, depending on the length of the rod and other factors. What that all comes down to is if you think you're just fishing a 1/4 ounce jig and you're jigging that 1/4 ounce jig, you add in that tip weight and you're far exceeding that 1/4 ounce. You could be fishing 1.5 ounces and you don't even know it. But if your rod is perfectly balanced, you take that tip weight out of it and all you are doing is fishing that 1/4 ounce and you get a hit, your sensitivity value goes way up. It's a night and day difference. And that's why our motto is feel the difference. You only feel it not only with the comfort and durability and sensitivity of the Syncork, but you feel it because it's well balanced. Now, back in the day, and still today, there are products that you can balance a rod with, this being one of them. And it's a butt cap that you slide onto the back end of the rod, and there's lead ingots that you can put into that butt cap. And totally, these 3 ingots weigh 4 ounces. And there's very often times where you have to add quarters to that butt cap and put it on the back end to make your rod balance. Well, you're adding over 4 ounces sometimes. And dead weight in your hand is a negative factor for sensitivity. So they have really super lightweight reels now, very lightweight rods, blanks, but not hardly any of them are designed to balance like this. It's amazing when you have this in your hand and you're doing your jigging motion, really all you're feeling is air and your jig. I mean, there's no rod there to feel, and your sensitivity goes way up. The rods themselves are among the lightest in the industry. They weigh from 2.8 ounces to 3.6, 3.4, 3.8 for all the spinning rods. Even a 7.5 foot light weighs 3.8 ounces. And our bass rods weigh 4.5 to 4.9 ounces. The 7.5 foot heavy, 7.5 foot heavy only weighs 4.9 ounces. And very proud of this, they all balance. Very difficult to get bait casting rods to do this. And again, your sensitivity when you're working your jig and craw or your Texas rig worm or whatever you're doing, your sensitivity goes through the roof. We try to cover as many Midwest type action rods as possible, lengths and actions. I'll talk about real quick lengths. A lot of people say, how long a rod do you use for jig fishing? Do you like this or what have you? I've just got a couple simple theories about rod length. If you're primarily a jig fisherman and you're in shallow water, 8, 12 feet, something like that, very often, fishing a 1/4 ounce jig with a minnow or plastic for walleyes or whatever you're pursuing, a 6'6" rod is physically, in physics, it makes sense. It's not as popular today. There seems to be trends going for longer rods, but I know at Reed's you saw a lot of 6.5 foot medium light rods, and there's a reason why, I think. If you take a look at the physics of it, and you put a rod in your hand, we'll just say this is the rod, make a couple of jigging motions, that rod tip at 6.5 feet might move 3 inches. You extend that out to 7.5 feet, all of a sudden that rod tip is moving a foot and a half. So what that translates down to is with a little bit shorter rod, you can really control your jigging presentation more incrementally and more precisely than you might with a much longer rod. Longer rods are great for picking up more line and setting hooks, but in shallower water, that might not be as big of a factor. But it really comes down to personal preference is what it's all about. And there's a lot of guys that are more comfortable with a longer rod for jigging and some with a 6.5. But I just thought I'd throw that at you for a little food thought and rod physics. After the spinning rods, and I can go through a couple models of different models. The 7-foot medium light only weighs, what's it, 3.2 ounces. That's incredibly lightweight in the hand, very well balanced, and what can't you do with it? I mean, the 7-foot medium light is a do-all, catch-all, everything kind of a rod. There's another rod, the 6'9", medium, fast. A lot of people love this rod for reaction strike lures, jigging wraps, rattling wraps, stuff like that. Lures of that nature. Paddle tail swinging baits, very, very popular and phenomenal rod. One of my favorites out in the bass world is the 7.5 foot heavy, for frogging, for fishing heavy weeds, for pulling big bass out of heavy cover. It's what I call an extractor. But yet again, very lightweight, perfectly balanced in your hand. It's really quite the weapon. When we got into musky rods, over the years, in my past years, designed a lot of musky rods. And in the day, I would try to make them very lightweight. That really doesn't fit into the equation that much anymore. The lures nowadays are so much bigger, so much heavier than years past that we beat these rods up. We don't go for the lightest weight musky rod in the world, but we do go for the very, very long lasting, very durable, very strong, very well performing, high performance rod. Again, with the Syncork handle, lean forward guides with the nitrate ring, quality from butt to tip, and they're designed to work for the actions that lures that are used nowadays, 8.5 foot to 9.5 foot extra heavy. So that kind of covers the spectrum of the rods. I will say, a little bit of a backup here. With the reels nowadays, they've gotten to be so good and so lightweight that you can go, and I've done this over the last couple of years, Daiwa being one of my favorites. I can go now with a little bit bigger reel than I used to because they're lighter in weight. And what that does for me is it has a larger spool, and I pick up more line per revolution, and especially on a 7.5 foot or 7 foot ultralight, that weighs just 2.8 ounces or 2.2 ounces. I used to fish a very small reel on this that had a very small spool. Well, you can cast a mile with this jig, or with this rod. You can cast a jig or a bob or a mile with it. And if you feel like something took the bait off your jig or whatever, and you wanted to bring it back home, it was a lot of cranking. And I said, the heck with this, and went with a larger reel. And that's when I kind of discovered that how lightweight they are now. You can go with the bigger reel and have a better pickup line capacity feature to it. So I'll leave that right there, and I'll leave Corey or Lee, if you've got any questions or anything you can add in, I'm here for you.
I just think, thanks, Greg. I mean, obviously it shows your passion and your knowledge in rod building with these rods. I mean, you've been around this industry for a long time, and it definitely shows. I mean, Elliot being a new rod company that we've carried the last year or so now, with both ice and summer, but a lot of people come in the store, and I mean, they pick up an Elliot rod right now, and to watch their facial expression on just how light it is, and the curiosity with the Syncork and everything else, it certainly shows in your rods. And I mean, I ask everybody, if you have the chance to at least pick one up and hold it and take a look at it, do it, because you will be thoroughly impressed with all of the rods, all the way from spinning, musky, bait cast, and you cover all of your bases as far as actions and lengths and everything else. So they're an amazing rod right now.
Appreciate that very much, Corey. And I've always felt with these rods that our best salesperson is the rod itself. You know, when it's in a guy's hand in a boat or an angler's hand in the boat, the rod does all the talking. You know what I mean? It really brings them back for another one.
I had
and I appreciate what you said about you know, what's gone into it. And I think when you mentioned, or Drew mentioned custom rods, you know, and in actuality that we're not a custom rod company. We're kind of a rod company. A custom rod is when someone orders something specific that's not standard, and we're a rod company. And the word custom is good, and that's where I came from. And building all those rods, I actually think by the time we sold the store, I think I built about, not personally all of them, but about 13,000 rods, and in 13 years. And it's kind of an amazing number, but if you do the math on it, it really comes out to maybe 3 rods a day. Some rods, some days more, some days less. But when you have your hands on rods, that many rods for that long a time, you build kind of an inherent knowledge that you don't get anywhere else. And it's kind of a blend of science and art and science. And I'm really happy with going back into business with my brother Paul and having the Elliot brand, because we're able to take all these years of knowledge and experience and really bring them to fruition. And it shows in the product. And we're really, really proud of what we got. And we're excited for Reeds to have them. And it's going to be a fun summer, I hope. Just need to get on the wall.
We're excited to have them. We did have one chat come in too, Greg, if you can touch on looking at the 7-1 medium extra fast, looking for the weight, or any more information about the blank of the rod from one of the viewers here.
Yeah, the weight on that rod is 3.6 ounces. It's very lightweight, extra fast, medium power. Originally, the extra fast actions that are really popular nowadays are the 6.9 medium light and the 7.1 medium, both extra fast. Both those types of actions originated in the bass world, and they were very popular for drop shot fishing over the boat and the edge of the boat. And extra fast is really nice, especially if you're fishing in deeper water, 20, 25 feet or whatever. When you go to set the hook, you don't have a lot of bend. You have it in the tip, but the meat of the rod really quick, so you got a good hook set in deep water. And but that being said, both those rods have crossed over, kind of cross-pollinated into the walleye world. And a lot of people really like them for jig fishing and fishing rattle baits, things of that nature, particularly the 7.1 medium, extra fast. It does just a lot of good things in both worlds, both bass and walleye. I'll say something a little bit personal. I don't know if it's completely factual, but I've personally noticed myself that an extra fast rod in fishing bass or even walleyes, but particularly bass because they jump, in shallow water, I'm talking 3, 4 feet, 5 feet, I've learned to prefer just the fast action rod. Reason being is when they decide to go ballistic and it's fairly short line or whatever, there's really not as much give in that rod because it's an extra fast action. And I've dumped a lot of big fish because of it. I went to a fast action shallow water, didn't have that experience. But in deeper water, I don't fear it because the line is more vertical down and not horizontal across. If that makes any sense to anybody. Some people might not agree with it, but it's something I've personally found in the boat on the water. But the 7.1 medium extra fast is one of our top sellers, hands down, no doubt about it. Very, very functional fun rod to fish with.
I'm gonna unmute everybody here and see if we have any questions from any of the viewers or anything else anybody wants to chime in on. If there's any questions for us or any questions for Gregg. You know, we are still trying to pass on the sports show specials right now, so certainly give us a call, 800-346-0019, or come on in the store. We are, like Drew was saying earlier, we are opening the doors tomorrow, both Walker and Mille Lacs location. But also remember, we are answering the phone or obviously our website. Any of these rods over $100 or any product right now over $100 ships for free as well. So certainly give us a call and we can still get you the sports show specials that we're unfortunately not able to be able to attend this year, but we'll get you the deals out there still.
If we're coming to a close, I'll leave it with a rod that I think is going to become a little more popular and trendy, particularly when people give it a try. Is the 7.6 or 7.9, the 7.9 Light. Matt Straw did an article on that in one of the fisherman publications, one of the bass publications. Had the privilege and pleasure of fishing with him a couple of times on Mille Lacs with that rod, and he uses 4-pound test. And that rod throwing like swim baits, a jig with a little bit of rubber on it with a grub or paddle tail plastic on it, on the slow to medium retrieve in various depths of water. Oh my God. What a fun rod to catch fish on. And the rod is forgiving enough for that 4-pound test where there's really not a threat or a scare or an issue in that line breaking at all. And it's just a phenomenal rod. It's a great presentation. It catches a ton of fish, both walleyes, smallmouth, largemouth. It's just a real fun rod to fish with. And, I guess the older I get, the more I kind of gravitate toward light action rods. Just maybe the nature of the beast, I don't know, but a lot of my friends are going in that direction too. And the 7.6 and 7.9 Light and 7.3 are phenomenal rods on the light action. A lot of fun.
Well, good. We sure appreciate it, Gregg, for everything you're doing. We're excited to have the rods in the store. We're excited to get back open. But if anybody needs or has any questions, certainly give us a call, stop in, send us an email, anything we're here to help. So, but we appreciate everything you do, Gregg. And
thank you,
everybody.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, guys.
All right.